take a moment of silence for all the victims and all the families and everybody that was killed and injured in Las Vegas.
Office is requesting the board approve and execute the minutes of the special meeting of September 11, 2017. Commissioner's Office has requested the board approve and execute the minutes of the meeting of September 12, 2017. And the Commissioner's Office has requested the board approve and execute the minutes of the meeting of September 19, 2017.
So moved.
Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Aye.
Okay. I am reporting on the financials that I approved on Thursday, September 28th. It's simply a supplemental appropriation for the sheriff's fair road refund for salaries, Medicare, and mobility allowance. Yes, October 2nd. I approved and executed the Office for Community Economic Development. Approved and executed the Office of Housing and Community Partnerships RLF grant/loan review of the report form. The proposed revolving loan fund loan to Third Dimension for the purchase the revolving loan fund loan to Third Dimension for the purchase of machinery and equipment in the amount of $100,000. For the county home, I accept the resignation of Susan Ryder, part-time attendant, to be effective September 25th. Transit, I accept the resignation of Ray Bontrager, part-time driver, to be effective September 22nd. And this office concurred with Bainbridge Township trustees not requesting a hearing on the liquor license requested by Hungry Bee at Sapphire Creek LLC, doing business as Sapphire Creek Winery and Gardens, located at 16965 Park Circle Drive in Bainbridge, permit number C, NEW 4072629.
Financials and loans district. Yes. River revenue certification for county police for the TCAP, that's the targeted community alternative to prison. Cash transfer in the amount of $65,000 from general fund to the GEO note retirement for 2017 principal payment for human services building improvement. Contract with Geauga Building Company in the amount of $57,500 for community development for the Kiwanis Lake project. Contract with GAR Paving in the amount of $27,980 for water resources for paving services for the Russell Park wastewater treatment plant in Irwin. Vouchers, payment of $104,105 to Ravenwood Center for Commissioners for the fourth quarter youth center operations funding. $10,145 to Richard Bowen and Associates Incorporated for the Commissioners for the first payment of the feasibility analysis, and that covered August. $105,516.80 to Roniak Paving for the engineers for the OPWC, and $24,875 to Cable Elevator Incorporated for maintenance for the Opera House elevator repair.
We have a motion for those financials. So moved.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes. Aye. Thanks. So we've got a presentation from the Geauga County Historical Society. Morning.
Morning. First of all, I'm Marilyn Pickett, and I am the treasurer of the Geauga County Historical Society. And I want to apologize for assuming that I could take over the front row here. I brought a little show and tell. And just to give you an idea of what the Geauga County Historical Society is all about. First of all, how many of you know what this is?
Literature.
Nope, sauerkraut.
It's a sauerkraut pack.
Don't I know a lot of really dumb stuff?
Right.
I used to have one at my house.
Well, then you know what this is.
It's a cabbage cutter.
It's a cabbage cutter that you would use to shred the cabbage to make sauerkraut. Now, yesterday we met with Mr. Claypole and we showed him our library, which he had not been in previously. I want to get out of the way here. And he said, bring a couple of artifacts that you have at the museum just to give people an idea of what you're about. I brought a family Bible, and we have shelves and shelves of family Bibles. Inside the family Bibles are the genealogy and the records of many of the families that are important to Geauga County. I also brought with me a roster of the Ohio soldiers in the Civil War. And we actually have documents in our archives that are of the induction papers, the separation papers. We have pictures, we have letters, we have all kinds of artifacts that relate to the soldiers who served in the Civil War from Geauga County. And then lastly, what I brought, and I want to put on my gloves because I do not want to handle these. We have in our library, I just broke this up. We have many, many, many boxes of family documents. What I brought with me today were the family documents, just one of the boxes of 7, I believe, for Eleazar Hickox, who, who was one of the very early settlers in Geauga County, who actually built the Hickox brick, which is on the square, the white brick house that you see as you drive around the square. He built that for his wife, who was Stella Umberfield, who came here in an ox cart and was the first family to settle in Geauga County in 1798. In these files, these are actual letters that were written, actual documents that were written by our early settlers. All of this information can be used and can be viewed by anybody who comes into our library and asks to see them, as long as we have an attendant there. We have an attendant there on Tuesdays during the day and by appointment. They are more than willing to help you. And not only, these are written in their own hands. These are documents that are priceless. And we have the whole basement of our library of just boxes of these types of documents. And they're all available. We have record books, we have land transfers going way back to the early 1800s. And so I wanted to do a presentation just to set the stage for what we are about. And I'm going to turn it over now to Fred Green, our president.
As she said, my name is Fred Green. I'm the president of the Geauga County Historical Society. And just to give you that in my hands, these are our current financial records for this year. I've already given Mr. Claypool a set of those documents. So how do we manage all these documents, all these different items? It's difficult. We have approximately 200 people that are volunteers throughout the year, and out of those volunteers we have a number of people who work as much as 35 hours a week. We do, however, have a handful of paid employees. We do have a full-time secretary and 2 full-time maintenance men, one of whom, our chief maintenance man, is an Amish man who comes in every day with his horse and buggy and keeps his horse out in the pen, and I feed the horse apples. So anyway, we also have part-time employees because we do have people that come in over the weekend for tours, and we do pay only $10 an hour. Employees who we call interpreters, but they're basically guides, docents. And those people also, not only are they there during the weekends for guiding the general public through the premises, but we also, this time of the year and also in the spring, host school groups coming in. Typically we have groups of about 25 kids, and they're taken through the premises for a 2-hour tour, which is part of the school curriculums. So those guides are also paid. And that's pretty much our payroll expense. But just taking care of all these different items, taking care of the buildings. We actually have over 40 buildings on the property. We're talking about Eliezer Hickox. His house was the first building in our museum complex, and it was bought 75 years ago with money donated to us by our congressman. This is Bolton, I forgot her first name. Thank you. Senior moment, I'm reading about Alzheimer's now. And anyway, 75 years ago, we had a house and a barn. From that time forward, we've accumulated all these other buildings that are assembled from all across the county. I'm bringing this all up because these buildings are old. They constantly have maintenance issues. How do we keep them up? We have volunteers to clean them, but we have to buy materials to make sure that they stay intact. We just recently bought some Thompson's water steel because we have 3 buildings with wooden shingles to be authentic. That costs money. How do we raise the money? As you probably know, and I hope you've all been to it, we have in the spring our apple butter, well, in the fall, coming up this month, we have our apple butter festival. In the spring, we have our pancake breakfast, and the uniqueness of our pancake breakfast is that the maple syrup is prepared on site. It's a struggle. Last year we didn't receive our traditional $20,000 from the county commissioners, and we ended up in dire straits, but as you probably know, we sold some items that raised enough money to make up the deficit. We have right now a deficit of about $37,000. So we're trying to point out that we are a Geauga County asset, preserving Geauga County's history, and we need help. The other thing to point out is that, in our opinion, Century Village, located in Burton, is probably the biggest tourist attraction in Geauga County. We bring in people from all over, not only the state, but I recently gave a private tour to 4 people, and one couple was from Perth, Australia. We just also recently had a conference with about 25 people from all over the state, people from Cincinnati. And when these people come in from all over, where do they stay? Local hotels, motels. Where do they eat? Local restaurants. We look at ourselves as an income-generating body in Geauga County, where we actually bring in people from all over. Not only, the school kids coming from all over, but we have all these adults that have slowly, finally finding out that we have a great tourist attraction here in Geauga County. We need help. We need help from everywhere we can find. If any of you have in the back have a deep pocket, we accept donations from anybody and everybody.
We'll be passing the basket here shortly.
Yes, please. Thank you.
In line with our church.
So I'm here to answer any questions of the county commissioners. So I don't want to be too long-winded. You've got plenty on your agenda.
So I guess ask us a question rather than us asking you a question.
Well, I'd like the county commissioners to recognize that we've been a county asset for over 100 years. I mentioned that 75 years ago we got our first building, but the Geauga County Historical Society started out in the 1850s collecting different memorabilia. They went somewhat dormant, certainly during the time of the Civil War. They reinvigorated themselves in the 1870s, and the nice thing about acquiring the Eliezer Hickox home 75 years ago is that the Historical Society was accumulating memorabilia, items from all over, like the ones we're showing you right now. They didn't have a place to store these, so when they first got the Hickox brick, they stored all kinds of those different items. Also, it was the inception of the museum with having tours given by a woman, Lottie Fox, who was upstairs living in the house, but no, not Lottie Fox. It was, anyway, we had our first interpreter, guide, docent. She was living upstairs. He would come in and she'd have tours. Why do we need help? 2 reasons. One, we need to preserve what we've got. And Mr. Spitaleri, I think your campaign logic was preserve and protect. That's what we're doing. We're trying to preserve the buildings and the artifacts. We're trying to protect them from the ravages of weather. We have to get Thompson's water sealed to keep those wooden shingles intact. But we do serve a function in the county, preserving what we have, preserving our history. But we're also, in a more contemporary sense, we are, I think, an engine that drives tourism in Geauga County.
And you ask what we want? What we want is we want you to reinstate at least the $20,000 that you were giving us over a period of years. We have gotten over several years, $20,000, and in the past, there have been years when we even got more than that because we had some special needs. But we want you to reinstate the $20,000 that we had gotten. As he said, we had to sell artifacts last year in order to make the budget for us last year. This year, we're $37,000 behind. The $20,000 that you have given us over the years, and especially this year, would help to make up that $37,000. Because right now, we are robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we need help. This is a county historical society. It's the duty of the county commissioners and the county residents to support this historical society. So you ask what we want, that's what we want.
Can you explain to me your program for soliciting donations, how you're doing with that?
What we do is we send out plea letters, just like most organizations do. We have fundraisers. We make personal requests. We make personal calls to businesses. One of the things we're discovering in Geauga County that I think all nonprofits are discovering, so many of our businesses that were homegrown businesses no longer are owned by the old established families who could make personal donations to us. We are finding that those personal donations have dried up because those families have either died, moved away, they have sold those businesses to corporations. In order for us to get money from what used to be Burton Rubber, which is just down the street, we have to go to a corporation through the channels, through Cleveland, and then further. And we can't get through the door because everybody in the world is asking them for donations. Every nonprofit in this county is experiencing the same thing. We are a nonprofit. We obviously don't make any money. Most of the people and most of the work that's done there is done by volunteers who are all Geauga County residents.
Can you tell me roughly how much a year you're getting in donations?
So far in donations, we've gotten $6,720.
Well, for example, I need to tell you though, that the donations we get are typically earmarked for specific capital improvements. We got a $5,000 donation from a family, but specifically to paint Hickok's brick house, which was looking deplorable. And because we were trying to celebrate the 75th anniversary of acquiring that property, we needed to make it look a hell of a lot better than it was. So we really got lucky. We got a family donation. Valor got donations in the past, but they're typically, again, for capital improvements. Right now, our big project is to complete the Geauga County Naval Museum, and we've got personal donations to help that project, but also a grant from the state of Ohio to partly for that construction. Also gifts in kind, like the concrete floor was gifts in kind. So the problem with cash donations from donors is that they're typically earmarked for a specific capital improvement or a specific project. We need money just for making the payroll and buying Thompson's water seal. And how do you go out and ask somebody for a specific donation to pay your salary of your Amish maintenance guy? You don't get those kind of donations typically. We wish we did, but they're pretty scarce. So, not to argue with you, Mr. Lennon, but it's just.
And by the way, the $5,000 he was talking about for painting the building was on last year's books. It came in at the end of the year last year, so it doesn't show up this year. And we have gotten donations for specific projects that do not show up on the general fund. They show up at the bottom, on the third page of the financial statement. When you look at an organization that only has a budget of $244,000, and $120,000 of that is earmarked for salaries with another $18,000 for taxes. So $138,000 out of 244 is salaries and taxes for our staff. We
What
have.
does that tell you?
What that tells us is that we're not a typical nonprofit that does not have money to put into anything except
Okay.
salaries and benefits. We have to beg for everything else to support what we get. The festivals, when you ask about fundraising, festivals are fundraisers and our donations. They're when people from all over come, pay a fee to come in. Those take a tremendous amount of effort, again, on all volunteers. They are staffed by all volunteers. If we had to pay people to do what our volunteers, well, we'd be out of business. We'd be out of business in a month. And when you look at a $37,000 deficit going into the last quarter of the year, number one, we aren't wasting any money. I promise you, we're not. Number two, we will be out of business.
So let me weigh in, because I did come out yesterday,
Right.
and I think the Historic Society is doing a great job. You got clean buildings, you've got history there, and we talk a lot about the value that you bring to the burden of the Geauga County area, all that kind of stuff. Part of the dilemma that we have, at least from my perspective, as commissioners, is we have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and so as every taxpayer dollar that we provide someplace, we have to demonstrate to the taxpayers that there's value for that, that we're getting something of value in return. Part of what I suggested yesterday, and we started a good conversation, I thought, yesterday, I think that there's some improvements in business practice, for the lack of a better term, that the Historic Society might employ to help you to gain your goals, which wouldn't necessarily mean that we would contribute. It would mean that, and I'm not saying we won't, because I can't speak for the guys, but a change in the practice might help you to be better off than you are. And let me give you one example. Tim asked the question, what's your average contribution from the community? $6,000 in a budget that's $200,000. That's pretty low. When you talked about the value that you bring to Geauga County, the businesses in Geauga County, Burton in particular, benefits from the activities that you're doing. Each of those businesses, the Red Maple Inn, the hardware store, we talked about this yesterday, the hardware store downtown Burton, all of those see increased traffic. Why are they not coming to the table and helping to contribute and to support this great organization that you guys are working your hearts out? I mean, I go over there and my heart goes out to you. The folks that were sitting in the library yesterday who were maintaining all the history and the books and the Bibles, and I thought it was really cool. But the community needs to recognize the value of what you have sitting there. And so we talked about some innovative ways, and I'd like to continue that conversation on how we might be able to help you. And we talked about a little collaborative effort yesterday. It's too preliminary to really address this here, but that might also be able to help you with funding, and that might be from the commissioner's side of things. So I'm saying that, not to speechify, but to get your response to that. Because I think that sometimes we're locked into the way of doing things, which prevents us from taking things to the next step. There's a lot of nonprofits around the country, some of which are very successful, some of which fail because of their thought process. And I'd like to see you guys succeed, and I'd like to help you to do that. We talked about that yesterday. So anyway, I'd like to hear your response to that in terms of outreach to the community and getting more involvement on the part of the community to support what you've got going on. You've got a jewel, you just need to get more community awareness, I think, so.
Well, that's actually one reason why we're here.
So let me ask you this, would you consider yourself an educating also part of the county for our youth?
Well, absolutely, because
So-
school tours are almost a daily process.
Right, so
And I
let
think-
me ask you this, when's the last time that you made an approach to the school boards to say, we need funding to continue this part of education?
Well, school boards,
Here's my concern is we basically, we basically throw $20,000 into this. We're not even past the part of the break even, and it's almost like, we're on the Titanic and the end result is going to be, we can try to get comfortable, but, we can throw $20 or $20,000 bills at this all day long, but where does this, where does it finally go the other way? And I'm just looking at it as, you look at the balance sheet here and you look at your financials, and it's just 20,000 is really, it's a Band-Aid, it's not the repair. And I think that the reality is that, the schools are utilizing this, and I don't think that they're utilizing it enough, to be quite honest with you. I took a tour with my daughter, and Dale took us around to all the different homes and everything there, and I'll be honest with you, it was pretty impressive to see that, but yet, I don't think that there's a strong enough program that are bringing a lot of the different kids in there as almost a mandatory type of field trip. And it's right in our own backyard, and it also, not only does what it does too is it grows the interest, and it grows the ownership to the actual event and to the organization there. Whereas right now people don't know, and it's really difficult, and it's a situation that I think that we can't be in this by ourselves. I mean, a $5,000 donation is nice, whoever did that, and to be able to say that you're at 7,000 for total donations in, that's, you can't survive. You can't survive like that. And I get it. And what you're saying as far as the businesses, I own 3 businesses in this county, and I can tell you we are absolutely bombarded every single day for every school event, every hardship case, everything. You can't donate to everything because you will go broke, and it becomes just a priority type of pick and choose, because you can't do it, and it's, I don't know what the answer is, but when you're looking at some of these, and I understand you're going to make situations like the Raccoon Festival, was actually a $661 loss. You're going to have those
that was for the
situations.
previous year. This
Right.
year they didn't.
Okay, but to try to figure something, it's just, I feel like it's a situation that the county is being, and I understand that you're coming to the commissioners, but I've also tried to do something a couple of years ago to try to correlate, to have the park district possibly, come into play with this. I mean, they're a location that people go for, entertainment, and I can tell you that, they're getting a fairly healthy tax dollar every year out of me, and to put my money into this, because it's a, you go down to Lake County Metro Parks and you go to the park that's there on Route 6, and they've got a whole real nice layout and activities every week, similar to what I always thought that this could be another one of those type of scenarios, only in a little bit of a different taste,
Could I just address that? Number one, the Lake Farm Parks and the Lake County park system, as with the Geauga County park system, are supported by tax levies. The Lake Historical Society has a very small levy on the ballot. There are many counties around the state that have levies on the ballot. We have never come to the commissioners and asked to put a levy on the ballot to support the Historical Society. That is an option that we could do to
But
get...
it is, and we're just going through our budget hearings right now, and we spoke with an organization that is going through the same trials and tribulations as you guys are. And, for us, it's almost, we don't make the decision for the taxpayers, let the taxpayers make the decision if they want to pay or not. It's just a situation where, I struggle with the $20,000 because we're not helping you long-term. It's not. It's a you know, we're putting a Band-Aid on a major artery, and I'm uncomfortable with it. I'll be honest with you. You gotta be sensible with your spending sometimes, and I'm just speaking to you as a business guy, because I would have a hard time putting money into my business with these kinds of financials, and I'd just be thinking outside of the box to say, what is it that we can make happen to turn this whole thing around and make this profitable? And believe me, this bothers me too. It bothers me a lot, because I think it's a neat thing, you know, and I think it's really, there's a lot of history there that people truly take for granted, and I don't want to see it go away, but I would rather try to help you in a way, you know, whether it's through my business or something, to be able to figure out something of trying to make something happen, but you need some help.
Well, and I'd like to just clarify something, because we're well aware of the issue that happened a couple of years ago when a group approached us to do an event at our grounds. They were turned down because it was in the same time proximity as a very similar event that we were doing, and we could not accommodate it. Number one, we're a nonprofit. We cannot discriminate based on sex, religion, race, whatever. We also do not discriminate on, like I said, religion. We could accommodate something like that. It was a bad timing issue. And I know that has gotten a lot of press, not press, but it has been talked about a lot. We needed to clarify that.
Yeah,
The second
I'm not sure I
issue,
know what you're talking about. But
So
no.
let me jump in and maybe kind of go
Right.
into something around this. You know, in the world of helping people out of their situations, sometimes you can give them a welfare payment and get them through, or you can help them to move on beyond that. And I think that, as Ralph said, I'm always impressed when I go through the stores. You guys have a great operation out there. You've got really cool people out there, and they're working their hearts out on it. But I think that the thought process sometimes is a little bit constraining. There's all kinds of revenue opportunities out there, or ways that you can change the equation that could help the Historic Society of Geauga County to go beyond where it is today. And we started talking about that a little bit yesterday. It's just a different way of looking at things. You know, we talked about promotion. More promotion is one simple example to the communities in terms of what you have. Take businesses through your organization, craft a marketing message to them to help them to understand the value you provide. Businesses, you know, if every business contributed a little bit, you'd have enough to increase your budget significantly. And you're not asking for a huge amount of money, although as these organizations, you know, these kinds of things go, sometimes you start getting more money and you start, you know, increasing your spending in silly ways sometimes. But with that said, I think that with a shift of thinking, we talked about another little collaborative effort yesterday, because there was some questions asked. You know, we talked about the whole park system in the past. We talked about, yesterday we talked about either state and or federal assistance. With a shift in thinking a little bit, you can reach out and become part of the state system, so to speak, part of the local Geauga County park system, and or be more integrated in with our tourism activity and be the center of tourism for Geauga County. That's an idea that we were floating around yesterday. So I think, as Ralph had said, it may be tough love a little bit. We want to help. I don't think there's a commissioner sitting here, and I don't want to speak for him, that doesn't want to see the Historic Society succeed, because you are a jewel in our county. It's how we get you there. And I think that we can help get you there in a couple of different ways. So I'd like to continue personally the conversation we started yesterday, because I think there are ways to get you beyond where you are, and maybe a temporary assistance through whatever vehicle. I mean, maybe we go out and get donations. I'll go out and stand on the street corner and beat people up and get them to provide some additional cash. But I do think that there's a way. I'm not sure that it's this way. And so, anyway.
Well, no, at least a conversation is what we need. As you're saying, it's very correct. People need to know what we are, where we are, and that involves talking and letting everybody be informed. So we really appreciate that, and appreciate your time too.
I think that a little bit of a tweak to, that we talked about yesterday, to enhance creating a collaborative kind of a situation, might be a real good next step. So let's continue that conversation. And I'll talk, I just.
And as far as for the schools, I mean, have you guys approached the schools?
Oh, yeah, we have a education chairman. She's not with us today, she's in California with her family. But that's her job, she beats the bushes, and that's why we do have so many school tours. It's not necessarily every school district in Geauga County, but we do bring in from Geauga County, other counties too.
Right.
So, but I would agree with you that it should be part of the curriculum for every school in Geauga
Yeah, I
County.
think so.
But
The history leaves we have out there on the shelf, we're losing. I mean, when I see some of what our kids learn today, they're not learning the real history. And you see it on the shelf there, the Civil War books and Civil War firearms you have there, and how to make cloth out of flax. I was so impressed with. I mean, it's
we have a
really
display in the cookhouse that even has the materials right there for educational purposes. So we've addressed all those issues, we just have to get people in there, see it. Thank you for your time, though, I
No, thank you
appreciate
for
that.
your-
Thank you.
So,
Excuse
I'm
me.
not gonna let this drop, by the way,
Yeah,
Before,
Marilyn.
yeah,
So I'm gonna get back to you guys on the idea of the
Okay.
history stuff.
and before you leave, would you make sure and let everyone here know the address of the facility so that those of us who may have a deep personal interest can visit the institution and actually see what it's about?
well, we're right on the square in Burton, and there are two signs that say Century Village Museum,
Okay.
and the entrance is on, going south out of Burton on 168, the parking lot, and it's the white brick building right on the south end of the park.
And when does your board meet?
We have a executive committee meeting tonight, and we meet every third Monday. So what that date is, I don't remember off the top of my head.
And you normally meet where?
We meet at the library, which is right there in the middle of the campus
In Burton?
in Burton.
It's at the library on the historical
Yeah,
grounds.
I'm not sorry, not the Burton Library, it's our library.
Okay.
And finally, what are your hours of operation?
Our store is open and our reception center is open from 10 to 4 every day. We have seasonal, right. We are
Seasonal
not,
meaning what?
Middle of winter, we don't really have much
Okay,
of a
so say
profile.
like
from
from
the middle
March?
yeah, from December 30th through April 1st. The office is open, but the grounds are not open. The grounds are open on the weekends from now until the middle of October for tours on Saturdays and Sundays. And you can also come in and do a walking tour on your own. You can get a map of the premises and do a walking tour, but if you want an inside tour, then we do them on Saturdays and Sundays.
And there's a great event center out there. I don't know how many people even know that. They do weddings out there and their events, and they've got a church, a white church on the property that you can use. I mean, it's an underutilized facility, and with a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential in there. And so we just need to figure out how to promote that potential.
I got one thing I misstated it. It's Bill. I'm sorry, I called you Dale. Sorry about that.
Dale, it kind of rhymes.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for letting us take up so much of your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming in.
I tell you what, they're lucky to have you, Marilyn.
Thank you. I keep telling them that.
I won't let it quit either.
Yeah, I've tried to quit, they won't let me.
Now, this is, the House Bill 49 passed, provided for some sales tax transition as we got cuts in the Medicaid receipts. So apparently the prescribed process is that you create a local sales tax transition fund And when we get the money from the state, goes in that fund, and then they turn it over to the general fund.
Say this again?
The state's providing some transitory funding to offset the loss in sales tax for Medicaid. And in the bill, it specifies you have to create this new fund, and the purpose of the new fund is to receive the money, and then you transfer it to the general fund.
Is that a recent change? Because I was trying to follow the.
It was actually in
what
counties
they're-
currently this last week.
No, I didn't catch that.
So you just have to take action. There's a little resolution work.
Any indication on dollar amount on that yet?
Yeah, there's a,
It's $104,067. You'll get half,
payments.
it's two payments, one will be, for November first, and then the other half will be, for, February first.
supposed to offset the.
And how long are we gonna do this for?
This is it.
This is
Just the 1 year?
Yeah.
How much of a downgrade?
The only thing that may change is, this is an allocation of the 50 million. If they decide to allocate the other 30 million, then there will be another.
Thank you, Governor.
So that's a $400,000
Yeah.
loss.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna make up for it with how much? About 100?
One time.
104,000, yeah.
Thank you very much.
So the auditor's office is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 17-116 to establish a Medicaid local sales tax transition fund pursuant to RC 387.20. This fund will record funds received as required by House Bill 49.
So moved.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yep.
Commissioner Clayton?
I, morning, Jamal. How are you?
Next two items on the agenda are requesting the board issue a finding of violation and court prosecutor to get two sites for the final paperwork, sites in Parkland. Basically, as built and long-term maintenance and inspection documents need to be filed for the final project with the stormwater. So we have, well, paperwork I sent you. We've been asking for this for years, so it's time.
Yeah.
So we tried to have it in the and calling, getting calls, so we keep sending them by mail.
All right, let's do it together, yep.
Soil and Water Conservation District is requesting the board issue a finding of violation against property number 30,036 Industrial Circle, permanent parcel number 25-147-546 and 25-147-547, located in Parkland Township, Parkland Industrial, for failure to comply with Geauga County Water Management and Sediment Control regulations as outlined in the site inspection report, section 8.04, and to forward the finding of violation to the Geauga County prosecutor for further actions as necessary to secure required compliance. Soil and Water Conservation District is requesting the board issue a finding of violation against CNC Precision Machine, owner of 12360 Industrial Circle, parcel number 25-147-521, located in Parkland Township, Parkland Industrial, for failure to comply with Geauga County Water Management and Sediment Control regulations as outlined in the site inspection report, section 8.04, or with the finding of violation to the Geauga County prosecutor for further actions necessary to secure required compliance.
Someone. Yes.
Conservation.
Can I ask one quick question? CNC Precision Machine, are they doing some addition work on it, or some construction
Yeah.
work there?
They did.
They did.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done. We have to paperwork all
I
put
see.
together.
Okay, okay,
Everything is stabilized, completed
okay,
a year ago.
okay, okay. All right. Just curious. Yeah.
Catch up the paper.
All right. Next item is to request the commissioners to continue the farmland preservation program that we did last year to apply as a local price sponsor for how to contact to accept applications as we did 17, so we'll be doing 2015 year.
And the start time to be able to accept it is when?
January, they'll release the dollar amounts that each, well, first they will accept all this would affect townships, where they're going to accept the money as not the dollar amount for every certified township, what you are allotted for the coming year, and that would be the beginning of the year, January. So as soon as we get that, we'll talk to the commissioners and kind of give the rollout that now we are accepting applications, so.
Soil and Water Conservation District is requesting the board
Thank you.
authorize the president of the board to execute the Health Department of Agriculture.
Thank you.
Local sponsors.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Application for local agricultural easement purchase program 2018, continuing the local agricultural easement purchases program as outlined in the memorandum of understanding between the Geauga Soil and Water Conservation District, the Geauga County Planning Commission, and the Geauga County Board of Commissioners for effective 2016.
Make that motion? Yes.
Take a number.
Morning. Item 12 on the agenda is requesting the board approve and execute the final change order for the Clay Street resurfacing in Townsend Township. It's a decrease in the project of $4,800.
County Insurance Office is requesting the board approve and execute change order number 1 final decreasing the contract with Sugar Valley Paving Program for the asphalt resurfacing of Clay Street, CA 37, sections 10 through N in Thompson Township, in the amount of $4,807.40.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Yes.
Item 13 is requesting the board to approve and authorize Mr. Claypool to sign the Ohio Public Works distribution number 1 for the asphalt resurfacing of Mulberry Road in amount of $105,416.
The County Engineer's Office is requesting the board approve and authorize Officer Hensley, board member and chief executive officer, to execute the Ohio Public Works Commission 2016 disbursement request form and certification number 1 in order to release funds from the state portion of our OPWC grant for the asphalt resurfacing of Mulberry Road, CA 39, section C 3D in Chester Township.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Spillier?
Thank you.
Who's next? I'll work down this year, huh? Perfect. Yep. Right.
Yeah, items 14, 15, 16 is the continuation, third and final step in the process of permissive license. Send some commissioners to the ballot. Discussed. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to bring this up or not, but I will. It was brought up to my attention that we had one exclusion possible, and it's the trailer exclusion. I don't know if we're even talking about it or not, but that would give the guys that are light trailers the opportunity to pass on them 100,000 pounds. So I don't know if either of you are familiar with that exclusion or not, but the other guys that have light trailers who are doing landscaping or whatever, they'll pass. private side?
Like a boat trailer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, boat trailer, 4x4 trailer, pulling out.
What's that?
Horse trailer view.
Horse
Yeah, I was
trailer.
gonna say, a horse trailer.
That's Chevy over.
With a horse in it anyway.
How many of these horses do you know?
If that's something that they want to consider, that they would have to make changes to the resolution or amend the restart the time period. If that's something that we choose to do, is that.
We can't make a resolution today as a side to this.
We can, you can approve it as is, and then you can amend it. You can come back and do an amendment next week, on that condition.
Well, I'm
Effective.
lukewarm on it, so.
Reasonably effective.
All right.
Commissioners? Something in here. Thank you. Mayor Chardon here. I, again, have some members of staff and our vice mayor as well, and I've had a couple conversations since last week's meeting with Commissioner Claypool and Lennon. I know there was some questions last week about enterprise, so I wanted to address those, and also I think Commissioner Claypool had some questions about some of the calculations that we provided from our finance director. So I would like them to have the opportunity to clarify a couple of those things for your information.
If I may, I believe it was Commissioner Lennon asked if we had spoken with Enterprise. And after the meeting last Tuesday, the mayor and I went to Enterprise, talked to the manager there, and I've had 2 subsequent conversations with the managers trying to get to the right person. And we did receive a phone call back yesterday in the afternoon, but we were not able to talk to them at that point. So we left a follow-up voicemail for them to call us. So to date, we have not had a conversation with the person who's trying to find out the information of what happened.
So I did have a conversation with Enterprise Corporate. I did talk to Nancy about this, and the lady, ironically, lives in Chesterland, who is in charge of registrations for Enterprise. Her comment to me was that she didn't think this would have any impact on Enterprise's decision to register cars in Chardon. It's not a part of their business decision process. They would simply modify their rates to, absorb or to accommodate that. And so she didn't see that as a factor. I asked her to send me a letter confirming that. I didn't receive one yet. I don't know whether she would have to go to some other higher corporate authority to get a letter out. But I did have a conversation. She indicated to me that, and I have her name, I can pass her name and her direct number to you.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was the same person that that was contacting us.
Yeah, it didn't sound like Enterprise to me was, the businesses make decisions for all kinds of reasons. This is not one factor. They make them for multiple factor reasons. And so there are other factors that may weigh into that, but it didn't appear to me that, or she told me that it wasn't going to be a major factor in their decision process. So they're renting, they rent a lot of cars through here, and they're happy with that, and they're good to go with that.
What's her permission, Commissioner?
What's that?
What is her permission, her position?
I just assumed, I don't want to expose her name publicly. She might get a gazillion calls, but I will tell you after the meeting.
Okay.
If you're interested, I'll give you her name and number. The other thing, and Nancy had mentioned the numbers, there's a report on the Ohio tax website that indicates the actual total dollar value, return value to Chardon as a result of the registrations. It didn't align with the numbers that I was seeing that you guys were publishing. And I've got the report, I can show you, it's publicly available on their website. The total amount for all registrations was like $725,000. This does not impact all registrations, it only impacts that segment that's enterprise specific, so 13,000 out of 20,000, so you can do the math. And so the numbers didn't add up to me still, so I'm a little confused over, but even that, let me just suggest this to you and take this as just a thought. Whenever, and I know we guard against this as a county, whenever you have one business that's going to impact significantly your financials, you mitigate that to the extent you can. And we had the tax that comes back from, as an example, from the casino situation. We don't make any financial decisions on it. That's money that we know could be impacted significantly on some sort of a goofy decision. And so this may fall into that category. I would suggest that maybe you don't look at these dollars. These are kind of sweet dollars versus those things you can make hard decisions on. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever, but companies, whenever you have one company that can significantly impact your financial situation, that's something you need to be on guard against. And we watch it and we consider that all the time because, like the state just made a decision to take $400,000 away from us. Well, you got to be constantly thinking who's going to impact your budget and in what ways. That one was totally unexpected, yet we have to be able to navigate around that. So, just a thought. So,
I guess just to close on this, I would just ask Chardon in what the intention of this, bringing this to our attention, or do you have a recommendation you would like to see this board take, other than working on enterprise? They've made no motion or intention of leaving Chardon or not to register cars there at this point. So I would just ask, what's your recommendation?
Well, I don't know that we still know that for certain because we
Okay.
haven't communicated with them, and I don't think they were aware of the situation either,
Right.
to our knowledge. So I'm not sure that they even know that yet. I know Mr. Claypool has talked to someone there, but we haven't, and so we have no confirmation of that one way or the other. We're just concerned about potentially a large loss of revenue based on your actions. So, and I don't know if Matt wants to speak to the financial part of it or not.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 different levies that impact how much we collect in the gas tax. 5, however many
report
there
here
are.
that specifically lays it all out. So
Yeah,
just enough.
and then there's reporting also from the state public safety department. So I'll look at those reports too to make sure everything lines up. But that could be some of the.
Well, and let me, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
let me be real clear. We're concerned too. We don't want Chardon to be harmed. We don't want to chase businesses out of our economy. We've got a bigger picture that we have to look at. I mean, I think if you were to ask our townships, most of our townships are on board with this, or all of our townships from what I've heard. And I know, the other thing is, Joe has been probably way more upfront, our county engineer has been way more upfront on this. 3 years ago, he gave everybody a heads up in Chardon that this could be coming. Before we even started this process, he talked to you guys about the fact that this might be coming and to get your input and so on and so forth. And so, it is really hard because we've got to look out for the common interest of the entire county, not for one organization. But we are concerned. Don't make a mistake that we're not. That's not entered into our thought process. I do a lot of homework on these things, as people know, and it was part of the calculation. But what are we going to do? Would you ask us to not make a decision for the entire county because it might?
So what I would ask, and I brought this up with you yesterday in our conversation on the phone, is there an urgency with this right now because we still have some unresolved questions and we would like to get them resolved. I'm not sure how it's going to impact your decision, but I think when you make decisions, I think you need to have all the questions answered, and right now we don't.
Well, we did start the clock. I did ask the question as a result of our conversation. And apparently the clock has started. So because there is in government, there's a cycle, and once you start something, you got to finish it within the time frame. And I think we're very close to the deadline in terms of being done.
Okay. So you're going to amend it anyway next week. So would it hurt to postpone it until next week?
No. No, I mean, we were having a conversation. Your last input was.
That's what I thought.
It's a few vehicles, and you didn't suggest it would be. And again, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the other guys.
Well, I know Geauga County today is having a first public meeting about their permissive tax, so they're not taking action this week.
I can't speak to what Geauga County is doing.
Yeah, next
I'm just
Thursday.
talking about the timeline.
I don't know
First
what.
hearing and then the following week, the second hearing. same
But I
time.
don't see anything.
There are a couple of low gas performance.
Can I ask a question? What if you got in touch with Enterprise and you found out that, oh my gosh, they're gonna leave if we do this? What would you be asking the board to do in that eventuality?
I'm not certain, we haven't really discussed it that far because that's a hypothetical and we really don't know yet what they're thinking.
Well, I think at a minimum would be to not pass one of the ORC clauses.
One of the five.
Because they're doing
So that
three.
there'd still be an advantage for them to stay.
You know, we may have some negotiation there that we're able to do, but obviously if it's already enacted, we don't have that available to us.
So if you guys are good,
Just go ahead.
it just starts the clock of the 30 days. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 17-117 to enact an additional county permissive annual motor vehicle license tax, first due tax pursuant to ORC 4504.15. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 17-118 to enact an additional county permissive annual motor vehicle license tax, second due tax pursuant to ORC 4504.6. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 17-119 to enact additional county permissive annual motor vehicle license tax, third due tax pursuant to ORC 4504.23.
Make that motion? Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Spillier?
Yes. Can I say one thing, Nancy?
Sure.
The thing that's unfortunate with a lot of this, it's frustrating being on this side of the table, is, you know, a few years ago, I know we had the situation with that bike trip that came through Nowaka, you know. And I get it, those funds, and we've had this conversation, and it was the conversation back then that those funds are earmarked for those projects. But the reality is, this is where my frustration was when I went there and made it public and made it to the point that basically I had absolutely zero support. I couldn't even get a second to table that, and Mr. Sharp was at that meeting also. I couldn't get a second for somebody to even attempt for it to go on a vote to rescind that and say, you know, let's put that money back into the roads of what we're getting that money for. And it's just, we're in a trick bag with Nowaka with a lot of this stuff. And I'm, you know, Skip Claypool is our, you know, I guess our voice who's very open of contradicting a lot of what their policies and procedures, and I try to, you know, give him the floor on that because he stays on top of that all the time and he does enough screaming for all three of us. But the reality is that it's a concern moving forward for everybody, not just Geauga, but it's Lake County that's involved, Medina County, Geauga County, Lorraine County, and all these counties, that all of these different dollars that are being sucked up in all these different programs, and look at the operation down there of the costs of just their administrative side of things. It's I don't know, and I don't like to have to see, you know, you guys having to be concerned about this, because listen, you guys are in the same county that we're in, and this is a bad you know situation for anybody that's got to have to spend more. But the reality is that our funding has continuously taken a hit. The relationship of NOACA supporting us is going the other way. And the programs continue to grow in other directions that here we are, you know? And it's like, it's just tough because everybody always seems to have the answer at that point in time of these feel-good programs, and look at where we're going, and now to hear that Geauga, you know, is doing this too, you know, and those poor folks, they're taxed like you can't believe in that county, and it's just, it's hard. I don't know what the answer is, but it's just, you know, the simple part of, you know, here's your gas tax and here's where it's going, and put this back in the roads. We should all be driving in great condition roads, but yet all these programs and all that infrastructure to run these programs have absolutely made it almost, you know, inoperable in a sense of taking other means than this. And that's where my decision of yes comes into play, because I see the writing on the wall. You know, it's not just a simple rubber stamp situation here. You know, and I've had, I mean, I commend, you know, the county engineer Joe and Frank. They've done an incredible job of keeping us on top of this, and I know that they're both bothered by wanting to do this. This is not what they want to do. But I also get it is, you know, people don't realize, I mean, you know, like we just had that one reduction of $4,000, but it's probably $100,000 plus, or potentially, you know, $250,000 job. I mean, it's just so expensive to touch these roads that you just can't afford to not look at other means. I don't want anybody leaving with this, you know, sour taste in their mouth, because it's just the cost of doing business that we're stuck in, and we're looking at down the road is that we kind of don't have a choice, and it's just, hopefully they can try to do something to refocus the spending and the dollars, and we would ask your support also. You know, Chardon was able to benefit from the bike trail that you guys had received those dollars from, for whatever that, you know, their program was with that. But as far as for you know, down the road, please, I mean,
Aren't the buggy lanes also, so, you know, you got congestion with unsafe, literally unsafe conditions down by Middlefield, and they're not getting that money. So that's an issue. I think from a safety standpoint, that's an issue.
yeah.
So the license tax, is it the intent to be all users of the roadway that have a modes of transportation on the roadway?
That is a registered vehicle.
Yeah, that is a registered.
So not all users of the roadway that use the transportation are being,
If you're a bicycle guy, no, you're not being taxed to.
but if you got a buggy with a horse on it, they don't pay a tax for that.
Well, they actually have a.
Is there any means in the state legislature to have like a license plate for those, so that there is, because they do a
That's
lot of
been
damage to the roads.
It's been talked about at length down at the legislature. They came real close to passing it years ago. My understanding in a conversation in the back, they worked out a deal where the Amish would voluntarily give money. In this county, they have been giving about $20,000 a year. I think last year it doubled, it turned to $40,000 last year. Their hope is that they're not required to be registered. Could they give zero and there would still be no recourse? Absolutely.
I just know that, you know, there's considerable damage
Yes.
to the hook and the wheel.
Oh, yeah, no
You
doubt
tell
about
any
it.
road that has that traffic in
Oh, yeah.
Middlefield, you get a
Yeah.
pretty good damage to the road.
Yeah, and that can only be changed in state legislature. And there, from time to time, it's talked about, and I know that it currently is being brought up again. Do I personally think it'll get traction? No.
And there's 2 points that should be made with the press here, and I don't know if you guys would want to write about this or not. But, and Joe, you need to correct me if I'm wrong, because I might have my perception of this.
Always or just right?
What's that? Well, first of all, this doesn't take effect immediately. We've got 2 years to adjust and get, you know, to help to mitigate whatever negatives that are out of the situation. And part of this is we're really being, I don't want to say forced into it, but pressed into it to ensure that we've got good roads for the county in general. But when the county does it, that townships in the city of Chardon could have done this themselves unilaterally. That would have taken off the table the county's ability to be able to do it. So the cities and the townships would have unilaterally benefited. The county doing this, Chardon actually benefits from this. And so there will be money coming back at substantial.
Well, and I brought this up at our last meeting, and we knew we had the ability to do this, and we chose not to.
Right.
Because we were concerned about the impact on the businesses here.
And I would look at that dollar amount since Enterprise moved in and started registering. It's been quite a windfall for Chardon, obviously,
It
right?
has been.
I mean, again, it wasn't money, I don't think that, I would bet the house on type thing, but,
Well, and we didn't, and believe me,
Yeah.
we didn't budget based on one
Right,
business,
right.
as Mr. Claypool was
Exactly.
kind of alluding to. We certainly
Yeah, and I don't know.
But at the end of the
I'm not
day,
weren't doing that.
At the end of
Um,
the day, I think the county has tried to, prior commissioners and engineers have, artificially kept that permissive tax low. And let's say, it's good business practice on Enterprise, if they're strictly just coming to Chardon just for this low $35 versus $55.
We don't know that
We don't
that's
know
the
if that's
case.
true, but if
We
it
don't.
is, I'd say touche, that's good business.
Sure.
On their part, but again, it's been like I said, quite a windfall for Chardon, but the rest of the county, I think, has, I wouldn't say suffered, but has helped subsidize, to offset, So, again, I don't think in a perfect world, if we could, if everything was free and we could ride on the roads for free, that would be great, but the facts are, the cost of doing business for our engineers has more than doubled in the last, say, 10 years for materials and, 200% increases. So with NOACA pulling back, I think our hand has been forced. And again, and I've said it last week, was best practice would have been incremental improvement, increase on this, but we're here today to rip the Band-Aid off, it feels like. And Geauga County, we are proud of our roads. We have some of the best roads in the state of Ohio, I would say. And that is what the people here are willing to pay for. So,
I do want to address something that
Yeah.
Commissioner Spitaleri said about the bike path, and I reiterated that here in this council chambers, or the commissioner chambers, a couple of times, I know, and talking about changing the legislation. The money that was allocated towards the alternative form of transportation was not ever available for general public roads, and we know that. And so the only way that can be changed is at the federal level. And that gets changed through your congressmen, through your U.S. senators, and Mr. Claypool, I know, has had conversations with those individuals to try to change that. So if we had not accepted that money, that means that money would not have gone to Geauga County streets or Geauga County roads, it would have gone to another county.
No, I'm fully in agreement with you on that. I'm
Right.
just saying, it's gotta get to the point that, voices have to be heard, and that was, specifically in NOACA that day, I had basically brought that up to the entire membership to say, let's not do this. We've got roads, we've got roads in this, you drive to NOACA, and on your way there, you pretty much need a mouthpiece in your mouth to avoid getting your teeth chipped because of the road conditions in Cleveland. And here we're putting bike trails in, It would be one thing if it was sunny California or Florida or something that you had a 12-month season, but it's like, really, I get it, hey, and I don't blame you at all for taking advantage of that. But to sit there to see the entire network of all the members that are representing on NOACA, and I couldn't get a single person to even second the motion, what does that tell you? So it's like, how do we get that message at the federal level to our congressmen and to whatever? We've spoken I know that, Congressman Joyce has been made aware of the problems that Geauga goes through with NOACA, but if I can't even get a second in the vote, how is anything going to get changed when all those people there are fully in agreement with obviously what's going on? And then, it's a situation where people can't complain when something like this, because it's like, we're still going to have to maintain roads, one way or another. And this is just, you know, a very small part that goes to assist that, but it's an uphill battle. And nobody from Chardon, you know, that day spoke up to my benefit or on my behalf to say, you're right. It was, I mean, Mr. Sharp was there representing you guys for the bike trail.
So let me clarify something about, so what you're saying is that you were asking NOACA to vote against the finances that we were requesting for the bike path, and what would the results of that been?
Well, no, it
Would have
wasn't
changed
necessarily
their
to vote
policy?
against it.
Is that what you're saying?
It wasn't to vote against it. It was a motion for us to put that on hold and to look at the potential of reestablishing those funds to redirect them into the road projects rather than the bike trails, because of the fact that we need the cash for the roads.
No, I
Everybody's
understand,
very
but would that have
Police
actually
job
changed
trail.
NOACA policy? Would that have changed their policy, and that money would have then changed the way that they spend that funds for the alternative transportation?
It was at least a starting point to basically.
But it wouldn't have changed the policy. It would have just prevented us from getting those dollars. That's
But
my point.
It wasn't driven by policy. Let me correct the record a couple things. First of all, bicycle dollars are alternative, it's a carve out for alternative dollars. Those alternative dollars can be used on roads. The buggy lanes down in Middlefield, which I've been pushing hard to get the projects to do, we did a safety study and all that kind of stuff. And so those dollars could have gone, those project dollars could have gone to buggy lanes to widen the roads and to keep our Amish and English community down in that area safe.
But they
Could-
had not submitted a
it could-
project.
Well, that's possible. I mean, I'm not saying that, and we've educated them regarding making more submissions. You're absolutely right. And Ralph is right. We're not faulting you guys for taking advantage of the system that was set up and configured properly, or in that way. The other thing is, and make no mistake, we talk about Geauga County. Every county is being harmed by NOACA's current process for evaluating where project dollars go. And so Lake County's they've taken money out of Lake County, they're taking out of, well, not so much Lorraine County, but Medina County, every county. NOACA has a scoring mechanism now which favors Cuyahoga County because they control the board.
Okay, but that's not my
And
question,
so-
Mr. Claypool. I wanted to understand the vote that you were talking about. Would that have actually changed the policy that NOACA would have then distributed dollars to streets rather than to alternative forms of transportation? And I
No,
didn't-
it wasn't a policy, it was they have a mechanism for deciding which projects they want to elevate and to fund. And
So it was just a
not
tiered
necessarily-
thing,
and
is
they
that
just
what you're
happened to
saying?
have selected that one to give us a bone, to give us a crumb off the table, and so they just happened to do that. If Ralph had succeeded, we might have been able to have a conversation about a more appropriate use of Geauga County allocated dollars, but they wouldn't even hear the conversation, which is part of the reason we've got an issue with. The TLCI dollars that you guys have just submitted a project for, okay, those are road dollars. That's taking money right off of our roads. And so whenever we make a request, and maybe we need to sit down and have an education about how the dollars flow through an organization like NOACA. Because when any community, Chardon, Middlefield, whoever, requests those TLCI dollars, those are road dollars that they've decided through their policy to move into this special category. That doesn't help Geauga County, that helps that specific unique project possibly. And so it's a conversation we ought to have. Maybe it's a good project for TLCI or whatever, but it's not helping us with our roads. Hence, we're in our situation where we've got to start making up for some of those losses because we're not, as a team, a Geauga County team, putting our heads together to find out how best to utilize those, the funding process that we've got down there. So anyway, that's to try and put what Ralph was saying in context. Had he succeeded, and I wasn't at the table, I was his alternate then, so he was at the table, Micah, he couldn't get anybody to second that conversation, which was too bad. I mean, that's part of the dilemma we have when we go downtown and we work with these guys. So, I don't know if that helps or doesn't help.
Well, and the other two commissioners who were commissioners at the time supported that project, from my understanding, Mary Samedi and Blake Rear, correct?
I think they probably did, so. I'm thinking it may not happen play out in the same way today, but.
I'm not sure. It wasn't Blake Rear at the time. It was Tracy Jemison.
Tracy, okay.
But yeah.
One thing I would like to say, there's been talk about Enterprise wanting to, you're concerned they'll pull out, and I understand that concern, and we've had that, Randy and I had that discussion a couple times. I still don't think there's a better place for them to go to Chardon, but that aside, there is a positive here. Chardon is gonna get $40,000 to $50,000 guaranteed, where this, you think maybe Enterprise might be leaving. I don't think they will. I don't want Chardon to be harmed by any means. I've been very supportive of Chardon. I think Randy can testify that I've supported you guys immensely, Ohio Public Works, down in Nowaka and everything. I fought for you guys, so I don't want this thing to be a county versus Chardon City, because it certainly isn't in my eyes.
No, we work well together and we appreciate it and expect to continue to do the same as we go forward with all the different projects and programs we have.
Yeah, we were just sitting next to each other at Public Works a couple days ago.
Well, thank you for hearing us today. We appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for coming.
And to enhance what Joe just said, the neat thing about Geauga County versus some other counties is we can sit here and have this family discussion about how we work together and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, we work together all the time. We work downtown because we've got courts that are located downtown, and we want to maintain the space that we have and all that kind of stuff. Our sheriff works with us. I mean, this isn't the way it works in every county. I'm amazed when I go to other counties and find out what kind of little battles that the political offices have there. They can't have a friendly conversation like we just had. And so, that's one of the reasons I really like living here and like being a commissioner here, because we do get along. So, anyway, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Kathy could not be here today. You know, we had Stillwell was wellness partner that Subco board that brought on. This year they have to provide interactive health. And one decision that needs to be made is on what level of wellness program the county participates in. Kathy is recommending level 2, which is, I think, just a little more intensive than level 1, and it maintains the reimbursement to those members who participate at $200 a year. So that's.
The level is point system days.
Oh.
And the top one was 600 points, and the next one underneath it was 500, and that's the level 1 and level 2.
Okay, goal 500 points, 600 points.
So 600 points she's recommending. And the cash value is $200.
Which is the current.
Which is the current.
Okay.
So
And
this
what-
is the one that would best kind of maintain what we have.
What's the cash value of the other one?
I think it's 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it won't affect anything dollar and cents wise what we're doing now?
Nope.
No.
This process.
Okay.
This is something we'll propose.
Okay. Okay, I'm okay with that. You guys hear that?
I'm fine with it.
Wellness. I know you're on board.
If we're fine with Kathy's recommendation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's not here today.
No.
We're talking about the Sevco wellness program. Yeah.
Commissioner's office is requesting the board of health to get a consent of interactive health personal health action plan level 2.
I know I love wellness.
I know.
I'm feeling well. Yeah. I'm on board. I don't feel so good. So moved. Yeah. Yes.
The next one was put on here based on individual conversations that I had based on an email that I had sent to the board.
Okay.
So the Commissioner's office is requesting the board that in light of the Thanksgiving Day holiday, it allows the Geauga County office of the higher authority of the board of commissioners will be closed on Friday, November 24, 2017. Before-hour operations will continue to operate as normal. Further, in order to maintain operations, the employees under the hiring authority of the board of commissioners required to work on November 24, 2017 will be entitled to overtime rate in addition to their regular pay. All union employees are governed by the provision of the collective bargaining agreement. This employee policy.
Okay, so moved.
Second. Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool? Skip asked me to put it on for discussion as to who we were leaning towards. The two applications that we received were from Kiefer Beach and from Mike Truzillo. So I just need to know if you are ready to move forward with that appointment. The seat has been vacant since April, and it is a 5-year term, and they are struggling without that board member.
Okay.
I'd make the motion for Mike.
Yep, second that.
Commissioner Leonard?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yep. Is this something
Mike?
we need here?
Sort of 5-year term and actual 2022. Okay.
Oh, okay. We don't need that.
No.
And then I have a request to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment of a public employee in the Commissioner's office.
So moved.
You can talk about it.
Yes.
Commissioner Leonard?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
You, Linda? Okay. Linda?
Linda?
Yeah.